right, thank you for staying with Daybreak, and the State of the Nation discussion continues now. Joining us now is Duncan Okatch, advocate of the High Court. We're still waiting for Joe Halende, advocate of the High Court as well, but Dan Manzo, Senator from Makueni, is with us here as well. Thank you for making time. And Okatch, before you walked in, we were talking about this top story on the Standard. Another Ruto tax law bites the dust. And what does this mean for the country in your view, considering that now there's a conversation that we need to go back to the 2022 Finance Act?
Yeah, thank you very much, Trevor, for having me on the show. Ideally, this is unprecedented. It has not happened in this particular country, and majorly because it is expected that a lot of care is taken when crafting the Finance Act, and this becomes the mother law upon which collection of tax is hinged on. Therefore, for this particular time where we have two finance acts having issues, with the government withdrawing the 2024 Act, 2023 Act, there are already issues raised previously, and it's something that has been in court for quite some time. At this point, it means that any collection of taxes based on the 2023 Finance Act from yesterday is illegal, null and void. Actually, the Court of Appeal fell short of saying that they ought to refund the taxes that they have collected. Only that it said that that was not an issue at the High Court. So to that extent, there's that principle of, that any act of parliament is valid unless declared otherwise. So at this point, the government has no option, but because taxes must continue to be collected, so the government must revert now to the 2022 Finance Act, which in my view may not be within the actual parameters or agenda of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Remember, when they came into power, they said that we are going to use it just for the time being, so that our agenda is actually now properly captured in the Finance Act that will be our baby. And to that extent, that's why they say that the 2023 Finance Act will now actually be what will capture the aspirations of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Yeah. So now there is no option. We are back to 2022 unless they have one more level. They can actually move to the Supreme Court, and if they get a stay from the Supreme Court, which I believe that is what ought to happen, they might do so. But remember, at this point, we do not have a principal legal advisor to the government in place. So also, this would ideally be the role of that principal legal advisor, who is the Attorney General. So there's also a big question that comes into play. For the court to consistently find acts of parliament unconstitutional when they raise a principal legal advisor, a big question is going to be asked. But maybe we can also say that maybe with the changes that are there, and I've heard senior counsel indicating the same, I believe we then have hope, because it's not the status quo that was. Okay,
let's shift gears and now talk about politics, and I'll come back to you, Senator Manzo. Yes. Let's start with the broad-based government. What is the position of Wiper on this? Have you welcomed the broad-based government or not?
Well, we have opposed it, and there were no sufficient talks, or you see, between political parties. You know, Kenya has two main coalitions, the Kenya Kwanza Coalition and Azimio Coalition. So Kenya Kwanza Coalition has not gone into talks with the Azimio Coalition. It has gone into talks with the ODM. And even the Secretary General of ODM has issued statements saying that those who have left ODM to join government have gone on their own. And ODM remains in Azimio Coalition, because any party pulling out of Azimio Coalition, then it changes a lot of things in the House. And that notwithstanding, I remember President Ruto one time, when he gave names, he said that the talks were over. Therefore, the so-called, conversation in the country, talks in the country. First of all, Kenya Kwanza has super majority in the House. It was already running in government. I didn't see a point of sacking the whole cabinet and then returning back the same faces. If any cabinet secretary had failed in their duties, there was a way of dealing with it without necessarily embarrassing them, because none of them has been told, those who have been sacked, none of them have been told what they did wrong, and they have not been given an opportunity to defend themselves. And therefore, the president announced that he's going to do a broad-based government. First of all, that particular government he has now formed, it has not addressed the issues Kenyans had presented before him. And in fact, the Kenyans wanted him to resign for having failed to conduct the activities of the country as expected, and for having made very many promises which he has not kept. Therefore, the so-called broad-based government is an illegality anyway, because if you have to do it, then political parties have to make agreements, you know, and these agreements have to be deposited with the registrar of political parties. That has not happened. And, you know, for those who have gone to join the so-called broad-based government, which has now changed the voting version in the House and has done confusion in the House. You see, people who are seated on the minority, like where we used to sit, where we sit with ODM. Some of them don't know now how to vote when it comes to voting, whether to vote with the government or to oppose. And that's going to create a bigger confusion in the country. I really want also to say the bigger problem is not exactly the cabinet secretaries. The bigger problem is the principal secretaries. And many departments of government are weakened, you know, like you can see the ODPP is unable to prosecute the killers of the many bodies lying in the mortuary in Nairobi here, you know, the City Council mortuary in Nairobi. Yeah. We have so many sick people in, you know, with gun wounds in Kenyatta National Hospital and many other hospitals. And I saw a mother in the news yesterday, in your news, asking President Ruto to say why the child is dead and what the child did. And if the child was not armed with a gun, why will you shoot somebody who is unarmed? So there are many issues unresolved, and I don't think they're going to be resolved by the so-called broad-based government. For me, I call it broad-based dictatorship. It's a new dictatorship in town. The problem is the principal secretaries. Yeah. And I can assure you a good example is Honorable Bandi. You find it very difficult in Treasury. There are technocrats there. In fact, many technocrats have messed up this country. And it's a high time something serious was done. And there's such serious corruption in the country that unless you deal with corruption in the country, nothing is going to change soon. So I'm expecting Honorable Bandi now, who was telling President Ruto, you are carrying a skunk. You know, the so-called finance bill is a skunk. But he's the one who is going to make a skunk for Ruto now. He's the one who is going to read statements and say, this is Kenya Kwanza policies, this is bottoms-up policy. And then that is going to be prepared for him by people. Then there's no minister, there's no cabinet secretary who can move, especially in Treasury, with a permanent secretary with a fixed mind. So we will need to look at the nation afresh. Probably the president is going to sack a few permanent secretaries. First of all, there are too many, drawing big salaries and doing nothing. You know, because the work they are doing can be done by one permanent secretary per ministry. Because it's just an accounting officer. All right. And therefore, I'm expecting all this. Hassan Joho is going to the so-called blue economy and fisheries and things like that, where Muvuria was. There's a very good permanent secretary there. But everybody is controlled from Treasury. If you don't have a budget or whatever plans you want to do, it's not achieved, what are you going to tell Kenyans? We are going to sit there and we will not deliver.
All right, we'll talk about the vetting in just a bit, because that starts at 8 a.m. this morning. But Duncan, let's talk about this formation of the new government that you're seeing. What do you make of it, first of all, this broad-based government? Does it address the concerns that the people had?
Trevor, this formation that we have seen exemplifies what we have always been saying in terms of the Kenyan politics. We do not have politics of principles, you know. We do not have parties that stick to certain ideologies. And the essence of political parties is that you have ideologies that are identifiable to yourselves and to your members, that by the time you are saying we belong to this political formation, it is so unique that you can differentiate their ideals with the next political party. Now, even when we come to say that we have Azimio and Kenya Kwanza as coalitions, they still have their own ideals, which when we were going to the elections, they were saying we are as different as day and night. Thereafter, we've seen a lot of issues and the opposition telling us that the ruling party has these particular problems. Their policies are upside down, they are bottom up, and it will not deliver. Then, within a very short time, you now cannot differentiate who is in the opposition, who is in the ruling party. And it is a very big problem. It tells you that you do not have politics of principles or governed by principles. If you look at the other democracies, you know that when you are in Britain, you are in Labour Party. It stands for something. And for someone to even dare cross over, it means you have changed your ideals and principalities. If you look at the US, the Democrats and the Republicans, it's not every day you'll see people playing this particular watermelon game. You do not see it. But in Kenya, now we can see people shamelessly doing it and trying to tell us it is the order of the day. Then what happens to all the criticisms that these people had, even on the policies of the government of the day? They are now going to government to do what? Is it to implement their own policies, which were they actually stood for, or is it to now implement the policies of Kenya Kwanza? And that's where now you do not see any difference in terms of who is Kenya Kwanza, who is Azimio. But even if they do so, because that of course is the death of opposition as we know it, because ideally Azimio is ODM. The others are just flower girls, for lack of a better word. If you look at Kenya Kwanza, it's UDA. The others are flower girls, for lack of a better word. And that is why I saw, I don't know if it was correct, yesterday I saw Raila Odinga and the luminaries meeting, I think at Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation.
The picture is right there in front of you.
It's actually right here. And then Dan Manzo is telling you here how bad it is, you know, how dictatorial it is. Yet they were the host of these same people. And it tells you there's a problem with our politics. Now, if you look at Dan Manzo's party that now wants to tell us that this is so bad, I remember seeing Dan Manzo, and history is very good, in 2007 when there was an issue in terms of elections, whether they were proper, they were stolen. Do you know it was even Kalonzo Musyoka, Dan Manzo and the rest who crossed over very fast and joined the government when there was an issue of the validity of an election. And it was only, actually that I believe was one of the major reasons why we never got to the bottom of who won that election. But they are the same people today who are now telling you, no, this is wrong. The problem with politicians is that, you know, it's about if it was Dan Manzo appointed, today he will be expecting us to support. They didn't reject. Actually, at that time they were supporting, and Dan Manzo, being a very senior lawyer, was actually supporting that particular position. So in our politics, there is and they need to cleanse this politics. Yeah. And that is what the Gen Z are telling people, that we are tired of this picky ponky. You know, you cannot be, you know, doing the same dalliance, telling us this is bad, then immediately you join the bad people and you want to be seen as angels. Okay. There's a problem there in our political hygiene, and I think the Gen Z will come and clean up and enable. And 2027 is not so far, because it will be so difficult to understand now who is this, who then will be standing in the shoes of opposition between now and then, and who deserves the mandate of Kenyans in terms of their change agenda.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, because I've been accused personally. I want to say that 2007 it was clear. Even Kivuitu, before he passed on and his soul rest in peace, he said he didn't know who won the election. Therefore, after you see, we had run. We were not the opposition. Our party had run for election, and we were number 3. And therefore, we formed a coalition. You know, you can form a coalition before elections or after elections. And we formed a coalition with Mwai Kibaki then and stabilized his government. Therefore, eventually, after further talks, and you know, there was a commission which was set up to find out about that, and then the constitution. We are now to get the 2010 constitution. And therefore, also, Raila Odinga and ODM still came into that as a prime minister. Therefore, there was a care government prepared for purposes of preparing a new constitution and for purposes of, you know, cleaning up the politics and making sure that no other elections are stolen. But that didn't happen. Elections still continue to be stolen, and therefore we still need to find a solution. I want to say that there is no gap. You know, Wiper Party is not a flower girl party. We are a parliamentary party, and as soon as ODM leaves, you know, if ODM decides to leave Azimio, then Azimio is a minority party, is a opposition party. And even without ODM, we are sufficient opposition, and we will run the government.
So will you
we will oppose the government.
As Wiper, because you're saying that if ODM decides to leave, will you as Wiper be leaving? Because we've seen NAC send you a message.
We have rejected. We will not leave. We will stay in the opposition. We will oppose the current government. We don't believe in the bottom-up policy, which has failed seriously so far, with a lot of lies and you know, and a lot of, without giving Kenyans hope, and poor performance in government. You know, corruption has increased in government, and no one is very sure, and the cost of living has gone very high. We were with ODM say cost of living is high. The reasons given by ODM to join Kenya Kwanza are very flimsy. But even they are divided about it. That's why you have seen Sifuna come out candidly that as ODM, we have not joined government. And those who have gone on there. And I was in that meeting of Azimio where this decision was supposed to be made. And I can assure you, by the time the press conference was being disrupted, the position was that we were not boarding. So therefore, a few people have decided to board, and that is for them. They will deal with it. They will be accountable to Kenyans as soon as they go to that. So we are very principled as a political party. We are going to remain in the opposition.
Yeah, Okacha has something to say.
What he's not telling you, and that's why I'm saying these parties have their leaders. He's not telling you why yesterday we can see Kalonzo Musyoka hosting what he now calls the government where Raila Odinga is, and what is the aspect of them meeting? Did they discuss this issue?
You should first be asking what was this meeting about, and you be in ODM, you should have called on Raila Odinga and asked him why he had gone to Wiper.
I'm not in ODM, but
you should have called him and asked him why there was that meeting. You can see Orengo there, senior counsel.
We'll give you a chance to respond. Let catch finish. Yes.
Yes. So there was a strict indication from their party that they are not joining, and that the decision made by ODM is their own decision. And to that extent, it then, and of course people will meet. Meeting is quite okay. But with those divergent views at this particular point, it will be important where if there are concerns, those are the concerns that should have been addressed at this point. But the problem with the political parties we have is that if you find that today Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka says we have agreed and we are supporting, Dan Manzo will be here tomorrow supporting that particular position, despite the fact that Kenyans will play clips of his averments today, and they will not care. And that is why you see the Mbadis, the Johos, Kenyans are playing those clips, but no one feels any shame on what they said. And the question will be, what has changed? This is a Kenya Kwanza monster that you told Kenyans, you know, that we have. Today you are joining that monster and you are not telling us what has changed, and you are telling us that monster is so good and things will be so rosy. It is not proper. I think one of the most principled leaders in this country has had is Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta has stuck to his position, come day, come night. And that is the kind of leadership that you'd want. That if you think this is not right, stick to that and try to correct it from that point. We cannot have a position where a party is saying we are donating our people to go to government, but we are remaining in opposition. You cannot have your cake and eat it. The reality of the day is that ODM has crossed to government, ODM is government, and anyone saying anything of that sort, that is the height of hypocrisy in this country, which people should not. It's actually abusing the intelligence of Kenyans when someone is saying that you are in government, you're actually going to be in control of this economy. The issues of this Finance Act and the cost decision will be decisions that must be made by your own person. Then you'll tell us again, you will be in the opposition opposing who? You're opposing yourself. You cannot be. You must choose one position and you take it up. Even if it is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka must decide. You know, people have said all these stories of watermelon. I think this is high time now for him to ensure that that particular tag is not with him, by sticking to, taking a position, sticking to it.
Okay. And Manzo, speaking of positions, Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper Party leader, had mentioned that the instructions to the Wiper legislators is to reject the ODM nominees to the cabinet. Is that still the position after this meeting? You
know, clearly this meeting is written there as the new chief who is Raila on dalliance with Ruto.
Yeah.
So that tells you what was happening yesterday. And our position is very clear that we are going to remain in opposition. We are not going to join government. It is true what Okachi say that you cannot have one leg in government and another leg in opposition. You have to decide where you are and why you have decided to join government. But it is for obvious reasons. I would not have expected Raila Odinga to go to African Union without, you know, leaving home in chaos. You will not have the moral authority. So I'll understand him in an effort to stabilize the current government, which also must support him to go to Addis Ababa. You have to live with your country's blessings. So now that he has applied, and we wish him well in Addis Ababa, and I believe he will win. That is good for Kenya. But the effort he has done to stabilize the country, I don't think ODM joining government has solved the problem of Kenyans. While the Gen Zs, you know, went to the streets, and while they were joined by the goons, the so-called goons, according to them, has not been addressed. I believe these were just frustrated young people who feel that no one is listening. And that is very natural, you know, way of one expressing themselves. Even if you pushed a cat into a corner, it's likely to scratch you, although it's a small animal. Therefore, I don't think that is going to sort out anything. The government already had super majority. If ODM adds more votes on the side of government, it will still not help. So with this position of voting for the nominees, we still reject. We will oppose them, we will vote no in the House. And
why? Shouldn't it be based on merit and their performance rather than which parties they belong to?
It's not about a party, it is about the principality, and it's about the character of the person. It is about the expectation. You know, the nomination, the team is going to do its work and bring a report. After Veti, they will bring a report to the House. And maybe many more will fall. You know, maybe the president has got to nominate for those who will fall. Yeah. I'm sure, and they'll fall for good reasons. I'll give a good example. You know, a very smart lawyer like Kidiki. People have died in his departments. Police are under him. Police have killed the people. The DPP is insisting he has no evidence. The killers of these young people, like Rex Kanyeki, Masai, are known. There are videos. The role of IPOA is not to investigate. It's not the work of police. And it's not the work of ODPP. IPOA is to listen to complaints against the policemen and find out what exactly happened. You know, the government has given the free will to go on and do you know, an inquest into each particular death. What happens? A magistrate court sits, and then Kenyans, public who know what happened, come and give evidence on record and on oath. And then they will pin down a particular person, and that will advise the ODPP to prosecute those particular people. So how is Kidiki and the president, how they say they have nothing to do with the deaths? I want to say the blood of all Kenyans in the morgue now, and those who have been buried, their blood is in the hands of Ruto and Kidiki.
Okay.
So that particular one may affect Kidiki in the vetting. But I leave it to the voters. I leave it to the House.
Yeah.
But for me, if I were to vote, you know, I would not vote for somebody you know, who has not explained, or whereby even the IG who has been retired, you know, is not facing the law. Somebody must face the law. If you killed an innocent person, you must face either an inquest, a murder trial, or a manslaughter trial. But you cannot get away with it and say there is justice in the country.
Okay.
Yeah, Trevor, there is one question you've asked my senior here, and he's not answering. There was a meeting yesterday. Is there any communication from their party on their position as to the nominees, especially from ODM? It is very important, because when you see they are quiet and they are not telling us, chances are high they will support these nominees.
No.
But the issue will be, even if there is no issue of ODM crossing, it's an issue of nominees. The issue at stake now is about their qualification, not even their parties. Are they qualified? Are they tainted? Are they the right people to be in those positions? So that you don't just support because the party has said support. You don't just oppose sheepishly like the MPs were doing when we are talking about the Finance Act, so that you just take a party position without reasoning. What happened in terms of the Finance Act should have made MPs now know that they need to make decisions based on their brains, based on their knowledge, not based on a party position. But when you look at it and moving it forward, in terms of Kithure Kindiki, and we must also, you know, call a spade, you know, the reality is that the reign of Kithure Kindiki has come with a lot of sacrifice from himself. We have seen a lot of improvement in terms of the security sector, and those are the things that also should be looked at. When it comes to the demonstrations, remember, police are under the command of the IG, and none other than the president said that and gave them autonomy. So that if there was any issue, we have seen the IG resigning. And we have seen the process of coming up with a new IG taking shape. So it cannot then be that just because the house help of Dan Manzo does something wrong, then he's the one to take up the blame. The buck at this particular point will stop with the IG, who had that command aspect. And those are things that will be dealt with at the House. Yeah. But we cannot always say that just because someone under you did something wrong, especially when you are not directly in command, yeah, that you must take the blame. For these people, let's vet them, let Parliament vet them fairly. As individuals and based on their track record, because they are going to serve the country, each and every one of us. Okay.
Now I must rectify something there. I want to say that Professor Kindiki, yeah, as a person has done very well. But there is something called political responsibility. Who bears political? Somebody must have given instruction for the IG to behave the way he did. There must be some instructions. But again, also the police officers must know, finally, there is also personal responsibility with you as an officer. Okay. Yeah. And at the moment you are prosecuted, yeah, then Kindiki and the president are indemnified. But so long as you are not being prosecuted, yeah, because of political pressure, then there is a problem there. But I want to say that Professor Kindiki has tried very much in a very murky waters, you know, in a very difficult department with the independent organs. But finally, somebody must bear, okay, the political responsibility, and that is different from any other thing. I want to wish Professor Kindiki well, yeah, in the vetting, and I think, you know, we saw how best he tried. Okay. But there was also only one failure: the regulations. You see, the regulations of the Public Order Act, yeah, the Penal Code are very old. The last ones were made by Amos Wako when he was Attorney General over 20 years ago, okay, and they expire after 10 years. So as a lawyer, the first thing was to renew the regulations. But now he started issuing them too late. Okay. You know, they will be issued like without going to Parliament, and they become regulations. Those are illegal regulations. Okay. I believe he has time to correct that.
All right. Joining us now is Joe Halende, is an advocate of the High